Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is July 28th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 16, 2022, signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. That was GL, there was something. 30A and 20 until March 31st, 2023. This meeting of the Chatham ZBA is being conducted by in-person and remote participation and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Then you have to punch in the conference ID number, which is 246-674-314, then hit the pound. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link and the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public may speak to any issue/hearing or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. We need a roll call of all members to authorize this hybrid form of meeting. Bob.
James Upson, I approve this form.
Bill.
Bill Grau, I approve.
Megan.
Megan Story, I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Dave Thompson, I approve.
Randy Potash, I approve.
David H. Veach, I approve.
I would ask that any citizens or non-board members participating in the call via the phone, we need to have your name, please, and the last four digits of your phone number for ID purposes. I don't think I'm going to go through the way we have hearings today. I've done it enough. So I simply will say, the lady to my right will be reading any and all applications, and this is Sarah B. Clark, and she is the PPO for the town. That's the principal permitting officer. So let's start with the approval of minutes from July 14th. Paul.
I will move to approve the minutes as amended, July 14, 2022.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that.
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, Sarah, 22-056, please.
Application number 22-056, Joseph Aaron Cacciatore, care of Larry Broody, P.O. Box 92, Harwichport, Mass. 02646, owner of property located at 144 Pleasant Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 2C, Block 56, Lot 16. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 20-071, granted on November 19, 2020, which allowed for the demolition of portions of the existing dwelling and the construction of additions. The applicant now seeks to modify this special permit to allow for the construction of a deck and overhang within the setback and additional building coverage. The approved dwelling was non-conforming in that it was located 3.7 feet from the northerly abutter. The overhang will be non-conforming and that it is located 4.1 feet from the northerly abutter, and the deck will be non-conforming and that it is located 6.5 feet from the northerly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The approved building coverage was 2,667 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,807 square feet, where 2,950 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot contains 25,538 square feet in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D 2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Good afternoon. As Sarah said, we're here to modify the existing special permit to include...
We know who you are, but you need to identify yourself, please.
I'm Larry Broody.
Thank you.
Modify the existing special permit for the construction of a grade level deck, about 316 square feet. Just to run through the criteria real quick. The site has adequate space for the structure, no issues with building or lot coverage. As Sarah mentioned, the encroachment on the non-conforming northerly abutter of the deck and the whole house and property. The size of the deck is compatible with other decks in the neighborhood, especially considering it's a single step above grade. Impact of scale, sighting, and mass on the neighborhood, visual character. You can't even see it. It's in the back of the property, in a fenced-in area, hidden away off of Pleasant Street. And neighboring uses, neighborhood properties have similar decks, structures, patios, so it's in keeping with the house neighborhood. And the rest of the criteria don't really seem to apply.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate on the screen.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Then I will read the correspondence. We have a memo from Judith Giorgio, health agent for the town of Chatham. She writes on 7/20, "I have no concerns regarding the modification to the special permit for this address." End of that. Now I'll ask for anyone who wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question to indicate that they would like to join the meeting now.
I see no one that has a specific question or wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Buck,
Buck has no questions.
Bill,
When you came in with the original approval, what was the deck and the overhang on those plans?
The overhang was on the plans, the deck was not. It was a grade level patio with two large steps, one in front of the slider and one in front of the rear entry door. We had grade issues with the neighbor's driveway and the swimming pool, so hence we had trying to mitigate any issues, we did the deck. Being in the setback, not any further than the existing house, we probably erred in making the decision to do it without amending the permit.
I mean, did you go through the building?
It was signed off on the frame and all that, it was there. So, guess it was more of in my mind, being one step off the ground, serving more as a large step in egress out of the back of the house. Less of a traditional deck setup and more of just a way to make up grade between the doors and essentially what we would have had as a huge puddle in the backyard there.
So is this something that came up when you finished, or did it get caught, or how did this arise where you came back in?
It was on the final as-built, somewhat of an oversight of the whole project. It got constructed, and then when we did the as-built, it was on there as a deck and not a patio area.
That's all I had, Dave.
Megan has no questions.
Paul?
So the deck was sort of a solution to a problem you saw on the ground, but it was not something that was in the plans.
Exactly.
And what about the overhang situation?
This came up at the last meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. The overhang was on the architectural drawings originally that was approved and passed by this board and historic, but was not communicated to the site engineer when doing the site plan. It's basically a 3-foot overhang over the back doors, just so rain doesn't pour over the windows and doors.
Sorry, so you lost me. The overhang was a part of the plans that were approved?
It was on the original ZBA application, but the setback was not noted on the site plan. Does that make sense? It was on the elevations, but because there was no structure below it, I think it was an oversight as far as the actual corner of the overhang being measured and marked as part of the setback.
So so where was the error?
think
It
the
was on the
error
plans,
was-
but it didn't show where.
I think the
it was.
error was when the site, see the overhang? I think the error was when the site plan was done, it wasn't, it was looked at from a foundation standpoint and not showing, from the elevations, showing the overhang.
So it's not shown there.
Right.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
not
so-
shown on the top view, but it was on the elevations.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Thompson?
I have no questions.
Randy?
I have no questions.
I have no questions, Dave.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Need a vote? Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Deliberations, Bill?
I mean, it's a beautiful house you guys did there. I guess I just have an issue with when, it appears like something was added on the plans or done in the field after the fact without it having been on the plans originally or been approved. So I have mixed feelings about it. If I were voting, I would be a bit torn, but seems like it'd be quite a hardship to pull it out. So, all things told, I would probably vote in favor.
Megan?
I probably would have approved it originally, so I would vote in favor. I tend to agree with Bill that it's frustrating when that happens, but I understand that mistakes are made. And it wasn't entirely left off the plans, so, I'm torn. But I would have approved it originally, so I would approve it now if I were voting.
Paul?
But I think I agree with the sentiment so far. I am a little concerned that things get constructed when they're not actually approved. But we're dealing here with a standard for a special permit, so given that we're dealing with a special permit standard and is overall more substantially detrimental, so I'm inclined to say that I would approve it.
Dave?
I agree with what's been said so far, and I was going to approve it.
Randy?
I also agree with everything that's been said, and I share Bill's sentiments because it caused a lot of question in my mind, and I'm sure you're sorry.
Oh, I'll be honest, I've been in front of this board 20 times, and this is the first time ever coming back to amend a special permit in this situation. I'm not a do it and figure it out later and beg for approval. Believe me, it's...
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think it's easy to see how this is a miscommunication with respect to the overhang. If the overhang were less than 2 feet, it wouldn't be an issue, would it? Is it still, but it's more than 2 feet, so it is. There's a lot of communication has taken place in the construction project, and sometimes things can come back, and I don't, I would have approved this had they originally been on there, or had originally been noted as far as the overhang, no problem at all. As far as the deck goes, you're really getting, when you get to the point you have a deck that's a foot off the ground, and rather than a patio, the distinctions are certainly made because a deck is a structure and a patio is not, as far as zoning is concerned. But I don't have a problem with any of this, so I'll support it. It meets all of our criteria.
Buck?
I feel Mr. Veach has done an excellent job explaining his position, and I'll support him.
Paul?
I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All vote yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. That's a unanimous vote. Sarah, 22-057, please.
Application number 22-057, Joseph and Karen Cacciatore, care of Larry Brudi, P.O. Box 92, Harwichport, Mass. 02646. Owners of property located at 144 Pleasant Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 2C, Block 56, Lot 16. The applicant seeks a dimensional variance from the required abutter setback for the installation of an exterior mechanical system appliance, AC condensers. The proposed AC condensers were installed 9.5 feet from the northerly abutter, where a 15-foot setback is required. A dimensional variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the Protective Bylaw.
I'm back. When it rains, it pours. Like Sarah said, we're back to apply for relief from the northerly setback for the air conditioning units. Once again, the property poses quite a bit of a challenge being sandwiched up against one sideline setback. In determining the best way to heat and cool this house, having no foundation underneath the front part of the existing house and no attic space, we had to determine the best locations for heating and cooling equipment inside the house and to allow them to properly function on the outside of the house. Trying to maintain the historic nature and appeal of the house, we did not think it was appropriate to wrap the northern side with exterior piping, line sets, and electrical to move the units any further forward. We also had an issue of where the step is indicated on the site plan, there's a gas meter. So we have to be out of 5 feet of the gas meter. The determination to put those units there, I'll be honest, we do most of our work in Harwich and Dennis, where we don't normally have to meet those criteria for the outdoor units. So it was, in my judgment, the best place to put them, the most inconspicuous, and to maintain the visual appeal for the neighborhood, to have them there where the northerly abutter is actually a 25-foot wide driveway, separated by a fence and plantings to the next house, which is at minimum 75 to 100 feet away. If you look at this plan with the way the house is designed, the only other spot that we could get them for the equipment to function appropriately would be essentially in the front yard, because we can meet the abutter setback of 15 feet, so exactly where Sarah's hand is. I didn't think that that was the best solution, as we would be even closer to the neighbor across the street. So the determination was to put them there. And like I said, working mostly in Harwich and Chatham, or Harwich and Dennis, it's not something we deal with often. I understand the spirit of the bylaw after reading it and understanding it and knowing, generators appear in neighbors' yards closer to neighboring properties than their own residents. In this case, if you went out and saw the location versus the neighboring properties, I don't feel as though it is a detriment to anybody on the street, where if we put them in the front yard, it only gets us closer to the neighbors across the street. I think that's what I have.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate on the screen you wish to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, and there's no correspondence. So now I'd ask for anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question. Now would be the time that you indicate on the screen you wish to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, questions from the board. Let's start with Megan.
This is gonna sound like a nasty question, but I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to be mean.
I love it. Hit me.
Nothing if not brutally honest. Did you know when you were sticking it there that you were violating this,
I did not until we physically had them
the
in.
building, the inspector at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Then I don't have any other questions.
Paul?
Were the air conditioner condensers shown on the original plan?
They were shown on the courtyard on the opposite side of the house. I'll be honest, I thought that was merely a suggestion, as there was only 2 and we needed 3 at that point in the process. We had never even discussed mechanicals and what the project would need.
Wait, where were they? Oh, yeah.
So they were reflected on the original plans that we approved, but they didn't need relief from us because they would comply with all of the existing regs.
Yes.
Now, is that a different situation than you run into in Dennis and Harwich, where you decide to change?
They don't
what's
have to
shown?
meet dimensional setbacks.
I understand, but from their viewpoint, can you change what you have on your plans and move them to a different location?
Yeah, I mean, typically we don't even show them on a ZBA app. The property, I mean, the property posed a bunch of challenges in the fact that the existing house that we had to keep being the front 2/3, there's literally no foundation underneath the house or access, and the dotted portion, and there's no attic space. So from a heating and cooling and infrastructure standpoint, it was quite a challenge.
So, so you would say that because of the nature of the structure, you were required to put them where they are now as opposed to where you had them on the plan?
No, yeah, and there's, well, the point of what we,
No, opposite the front step on Pleasant Street, we have 1 unit on the 2nd floor in the crawl space or in the knee wall, and then there's a 2nd unit above the 2nd floor in 144 in the ceiling. So as far as line sets, and we'd be piping and running line sets around the world in order to, thanks. Functionally, it made little to no sense from a construction and efficiency standpoint.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Can I ask a question that's related? It's the same, but would the piping then have to go like outside
It
of
would
the
be
house
exterior.
and on the exterior? Okay.
Exactly. Like the downspout piping, that would be run the length of the house and.
Mr. Thompson? Questions?
Thank you. Just looking at the site plan, as-built site plan, when you look at the bulkhead, it's 3.7 feet from the line. These others are not that far, 9.5, 10.3, 11.1. And you've got the 25-foot right-of-way through there. I don't think there's a problem. You're so far away from any other buildings and whatever. It's logical to have them there. It's logical to give them permission to put them there. I see nothing wrong with this. I realize that they were shown on the other side. I think it's a logical spot to have them. So I'd go along with it.
That was your question?
Oh, I didn't have any questions. Oh, no. I was just thinking this out
Okay.
when Larry was saying that that's a 25-foot right-of-way, which goes back to, what is it, 140
Yeah, it's 140 or
Pleasant
138.
Street. So I don't really have any questions for you, but you can see what I'm thinking.
And you see what we were thinking.
And I can see what you were thinking.
But my discussions with Sarah were talking about things that are logical.
See, I'm not supposed to use that word in Chatham,
It's an
But you
ugly
can see
word,
where
I know.
but you can see where I'm growing.
Yeah, I see
There are
exactly.
no attorneys in the room.
Well, there could be.
Sorry to put you
You're
on the
sitting
spot.
next to one, and there's one over here.
Oh, jeez.
Randy?
Speaking of variances, so you made reference to the fact that the Historical Society was involved with this?
Yeah, for the demolition of part of the structure at the beginning.
Okay, so the part of the structure that's right near these AC condensers, was that new, or was that already there?
That was existing.
That's good, because there seems to be a provision about existing buildings. So could you,
It was circa 1875.
yeah, great. So that was there, and you're working with what's there, so that's all good. Because that kind of goes in the category of the topology. But you wouldn't think it would, but, so.
Sure.
I think you have that going for you, but, so if you had to put them on the other side, which is the place they were located on, like the plans, could you have done that, or tell us that you couldn't have done that?
We would not, no, I mean, the upstairs unit would not function. We would have
Yeah.
to rework something or do something major structurally in order to find room to heat and cool the front portion of the house.
And does anybody have any problems with it in the
No.
neighborhood?
Nope.
No.
Just Sarah.
Gotcha. Okay, all right, thank you. That was my question.
Dave?
So you said it shows AC, are these heat pumps or?
One is a heat pump
And
for the front portion of
the
the house.
front portion, and
Yeah.
the other two are AC condensers?
Yep.
Okay, I think that's all I have, Dave, thanks.
Buck?
I thought somebody would ask, so in order to get a variance, the three criteria are supposed to be met. Have you looked at those at all?
These?
Well, I can't read that. I can hardly read in front of me, but there's something about a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw that would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner.
Sure.
Did you see that clause somewhere? So why don't you answer that question, just
So from a hardship standpoint of, without being able to put those units there, it would be extremely expensive, and at this point, with a completed project, next to impossible without doing it externally to relocate the units either further forward onto, into the front yard of the house, or pipe around to the back left corner, for them to potentially work, where the upstairs unit, it would be too far away. The line set would be too long, and the heat pump just wouldn't function.
Bill?
I mean, let me just ask you this. Did it ever occur to you to come in here while you were considering moving them instead of after the fact?
I'll be honest, like I had said before, Harwich and Dennis, we'd never deal with these outdoor unit issues.
Right.
So all the other projects we've done in Chatham, we're never this close with these units being an issue, so.
So you've done-
I know ignorance isn't the, I didn't know.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand your
Yeah.
thought process of it
Well,
because.
and my thought process also was knowing that logically it was the best place to put them, not only for the house, the client, the appeal of the house, the look, and the abutter is a driveway. So putting something next to a driveway rather than closer to somebody's house was more my thought than anything.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. But
Once again, like I said,
Process.
I've been here 20 times. Begging for forgiveness is not my.
He said he didn't
Project
know until the
style.
building
what if
Sarah
the guy
sent me a nice letter telling me I had messed up on 2 things.
A nice letter?
Ah,
She only writes.
she said it nicely. How about that?
That's right.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Paul, we need a motion to go into deliberation.
Do I move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Vote.
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations, Paul?
Well, you put us in a tough situation, Larry, but at the same time, you have a number of things going for you. As you know, the criteria for a variance is much different than a special permit, and it's tough to get on a number of occasions. Here, I tend to agree with you that the location actually turns out to be better than it would be otherwise, given that you've got that right-of-way on the other side, and you're isolated from everyone else. So all of that is good. In dealing with the criteria for the variance, the hardship is clearly there because the unit looks good and it's an excellent location, and to have to move that at this point would be somewhat nonsensical. So I agree with you there, and I agree with the idea that a literal enforcement would be not so much in the public good. The issue becomes the question of whether you qualify based on topography of land and so forth. I don't think it's based on topography of land that you would qualify for a variance, but it seems to me that there is an argument that the structure would give you the conditions necessary for the variance, given some of the historical and location situations. So, as I say, you put us in a difficult position, and we would rather see you here asking for permission, as you know. But I think I will vote favorably.
Mr. Thompson?
Thank you. As you know, I'm inclined to agree with all of this. For you to go and repipe this would be difficult. It might be unsightly. I know that because I have these in my home. I think it's logical to have the outside units where they are. We're all entitled to make a mistake in judgment. You really can't see them that well from the road. I would go along with granting you permission.
Randy?
Thank you. So I agree with Mr. Thompson, and Paul set out everything that I was thinking. I think you meet the criteria, only because of the historical nature of that. So I would support it if I were voting.
Mr. Veach?
Well, thanks to our in-house attorneys, I'm in agreement on this. I mean, I certainly at all, and I'm also agreeing with Dave. I mean, it makes sense, totally makes sense. I'm not sure, and I understand how this could have gotten by them as well, given the requirements that Chatham has. Although I think if he'd come in beforehand, we would have faced the same situation because it still would have required a variance. And couldn't be done under the special permit because this is a new nonconformity, basically. I can find that it meets all the criteria necessary to grant a variance, and I will support it.
Buck?
I was satisfied with Larry's response to my question on criteria number 2, so I will support this.
Bill?
I would agree with what everyone said. I mean, everyone pretty much covered it, and if I were voting, I would support it.
Megan?
I would definitely agree and support it. I think if I lived in the neighborhood, I wouldn't want it anywhere else in the neighborhood, like in that lot, so.
Well, that leaves it to me to not support it. You know, we approved something, and these units were placed in a specific area. And so the argument says, well, gee, if it had been placed elsewhere at the time, well, you know what? We could have had the discussion. We could say, Larry, you got to move it. Because this does not qualify. The topography issue, out. You know, this doesn't qualify for a variance. It doesn't. And because you went ahead and did it, there's no reason that we should say, fine, it's okay. It really isn't. And as you said, you've been here plenty of times. If you ever have a question, you know, you just call Sarah and she'd straighten you out, and it would have been that. So, you know, this is not a candy store. And sometimes I think, you know, we're giving away things like variances. And I know I usually don't vote for them, but I just can't see that this variance should be approved yesterday, today, or any day, unless it was when we had the initial application. Then it puts it on a very different basis. So I will be voting no.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
All those in favor, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And all those against? That would be myself, and I vote no, but you get your wish, because that's a 4-to-1 vote. So,
I appreciate it, and we'll be back asking permission, not forgiveness, next time, and onward and upward.
okay, Sarah, how about 22-058?
Application number 22-058, Shell Drive Development LLC, care of Daniel Russell, 45 Bridge Street, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 63 Shell Drive. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14K, Block 15, Lot W53. The applicant seeks to install an unpaved footpath and elevated stairway as allowed by special permit under sections 4A3A of the protective bylaw. The lot contains 3.47 acres in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the protective bylaw.
Thank you. My name is Dan Russell from Sears Point Development, owner of 63 Shell Drive. I think it's pretty straightforward, and just to remind you, this is something that already went through the conservation process and was approved and was put in a very specific place to keep it out from the neighbors and also to do the least amount, to have the least amount of issues with the environment. I don't know if there's that much more to say. I think I reviewed the criteria that Sarah sent me, and the only one that really it's affected by is number 9, and I think that was cleared up by getting it approved by conservation in the first place.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate it on the screen so you can join the movie. The movement. The movie. How's that? What am I thinking about? A movie? Yeah, you're right.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence. First, we have a memo. This is from Nicole Smith, our conservation agent. She writes, the elevated beach stairs were approved by the Conservation Commission. She wrote that on July 25th. Then we have a note. This is from Suzanne Feeney, who is the president of the Cannon Hill Association in the Cannon Hill Road District. She writes on July 28th. Regarding Shell Drive Development's request for a special permit, the Board of Cannon Hill Association respectfully requests repair of any erosion to the beach areas, which results from installation of the proposed unpaved footpath and elevated stairway. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Other Cannon Hill board members and neighbors may express differing or additional requests, objections, or concerns about this matter. We ask that those be heard and acknowledged as well. Well, that limits the actual correspondence.
So just so the board is aware, the Conservation Commission had them relocate the path. So rather than winding through the
Yes.
property, now it just runs along the side. So that's technically no longer in our jurisdiction because it doesn't fall within the Conservancy District. So we're just looking at
The
new
stairs.
The stairs do.
Yeah, okay. So we would ask that anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the stairs or has a specific question, please indicate on the screen now that you would like to join the meeting.
I don't know how.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. We'll start with Mr. Thompson.
Dave Thompson has no questions.
Randy?
No questions.
I have no questions.
Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
I don't have any questions.
Megan?
No questions.
Paul?
Paul has no questions.
Okay, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
We need a vote on that, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave T?
Dave T, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Randy?
It meets the criteria. I would support it if I were.
Dave H?
Yeah, it meets all of our criteria. Stairs over the bank are always a good idea. You know, it's better for the environment, and I will support it.
Buck?
Before I reveal my position, I'd like to state that the blueprints submitted with the application, in my opinion, are useless, but I will support the project.
Okay.
Oh, too
Bill?
funny. I didn't do it.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time out there. I met Mr. Russell out there, and we talked, and some of the neighbors. And I think after it was staked and I saw where, I think that's in the best place for it. I think it makes the most sense. Conservation approved it. I couldn't really tell from the drawing where it was, so,
Yeah.
your responding and getting it staked was helpful. And given all that, I think if I were voting, I would support it as well.
Megan?
Thankfully, I went out when it was already staked, and it looked great to me. I would say it meets the criteria.
Paul?
I agree with Buck that blueprints are worthless for us to try and figure out what the heck is going on here. Maybe because they're so reduced in size or something, but when you look at the site, it seems to make sense to place it where it is, and it seems to meet our criteria, so I would vote in favor.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
I think it would be a really good idea, so I'm going to say yes.
Do you think it was logical?
I think it was exceedingly logical.
Okay.
Dave Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Unanimous.
so
vote.
much.
All right. No. Yeah, I did. Didn't need to. Okay, well, Mr. Riley, are you hiding back there? Yes, you are. Okay. Sarah, 22-059, please.
Application number 22-059, Kevin V. Steinhauer and Susan R. Steinhauer, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 37 Seaview Street. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map, 15E, Block 6, Lot 16. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling and a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 18.6 feet from the road. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 24.2 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,304 square feet, 9.3%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,495 square feet, 10.6%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 14,024 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
So
Mr. Riley,
after watching the applicant for the variance, I think the next time I need a variance, I'm going to wear flip-flops, a short, and a golf shirt,
that's right.
and see how I make out.
And, well, you can point out that Chatham is not your home and that you live elsewhere. And this is your first day of presenting in front of the ZBA. And all that kind of stuff. Can we start by reading your letter to us, and then you can pick us up after that? Can I do that?
Sure.
On the 25th,
I did.
you wrote to Sarah, when you notified me the 37 Seaview had to go to historic, we ran around and tried to get it filed. I was not successful, but in speaking with the owner, Mr. Steinhauer, he informed me that there is a cornerstone in his basement with a date of 1949. I'm enclosing a copy of the deed from 46, which conveys only land. Accordingly, the assessor's records indicating 1935 are incorrect, and we will not be filing with historic. We will be submitting a picture of the stone as well. Is that still true, Mr. Riley?
No.
I didn't think so. Okay. You might bring us up to speed on what you have discovered.
Sure. The funny thing was, it wasn't a stone.
No, it's a
Somebody
piece of
etched
cement.
the date in the cement floor. That's all. But the deed in 1946 was for land only. The records in the town are a little confusing because the owners of the property at that time, Lyman and Viva Nickerson. Well, I don't know, they named the paper towels after her. So, Viva, no? Anyway, it was Viva? Anyway. I actually owned another house on Seaview Street at that time, and the records, the assessor's records at the time are not as clear as they are today. So, because of the lack of clarity, we're going to go ahead, we're filing an application with historical, or we're attempting to. We keep getting rejected because they don't like the quality of the photographs. So now we have to take new pictures, apparently. But anyway, so we hope to be heard by them on September 6th.
Okay, so what you're saying to us is that you want to go through with the hearing, correct?
Yes, I would.
Even though you haven't been to historic?
That's correct.
And you intend to go to historic?
Yes.
Okay, so let's save a lot of time and make sure that's cool with everybody, okay?
Sure.
All right. Buck, what do you think of that?
Not so much.
Bill, what do you think?
I think it needs to go to historic first as well.
Megan?
I agree.
Paul?
Sounds like they're on a roll here. It sounds like historic may be a better idea, yes.
Mr. Thompson?
I definitely think you should go to historic. Logically, that's what we would do.
You know, yeah, and I agree. I mean, it is logical. However,
Randy?
I'm just gonna go along with the crowd.
Mr. Veach?
I'll go along with my fellow board members.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't think this is out of line, but to help the representative, his sheet for the special permit number 2, compatibility of size, says that he's increasing the square footage 1,000 square feet. But in the write-up that were sent by Sarah, it looks like it's only increasing 100 square feet. So maybe, I'm just suggesting that somebody check their numbers again.
The 1,000 square feet I'm referring to is gross floor area
Okay.
so it's a 2-story addition, and by my measurement, it's approximately 500 square feet of additional interior space on each floor. So that's where, so I was referring to 1,000 square feet of gross floor area addition. So the total gross area, if allowed, would be about 2,700 square feet.
Well, I didn't ask myself what I thought about you going forward or going to historical. If there was one vote, I'd say, go ahead. But I understand why they're talking about, and understanding that this thing's going to be quite tall, but my whole thinking process was the old house really has got nothing to do with this. So, anyway, so,
The one comment I would make is that it's historic only because it might be 75 years old. And so the question is, for them, not you, but for them, is this a building of historical significance? And, it's a standard, small, full cape, but that's their decision to make,
Yeah.
so.
and I don't think want to put words in their mouth. So, the only thing
I'm
else.
happy to, but.
Okay, I know you are, and I know you're going to be happy to ask for a continuance, but before we do that, maybe the members can tell you a concern or two they have. Maybe they don't have any, I don't know.
Okay,
So
sure.
Buck, do you have any concerns about this?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Normally, and I'm still learning on this, somewhere on one set of prints, either the architects or the surveyors, they show ridge heights and grade plane. And I don't think any of that information is here on what the height, I don't think, I could be, I've been wrong on it several times. I don't think the height of the old house is on the print, and the height of the proposed addition, which appears to be more than a few feet different, it has me concerned.
Well, no,
Okay.
and just to respond to that very briefly, as you can tell, the architect or the designer and the engineer, site plan person are not frequent visitors here.
Understood.
And
They hang around with Larry. Yeah.
So I had to call and ask.
He just changed his shoes.
So I had to call and ask. So it'll be on the plans next time I see you, but
I'm sure they will.
the proposed ridge is 23 feet, and the existing ridge is 20 feet.
Thank you.
Okay. Bill, do you have any concerns that Mr. Riley can file in his, not answer, but file?
Just clarify
Guidance, we call it. I need guidance.
clarify for me again the square footage of the house, existing and proposed, not the coverage.
Well, so, because we don't usually do the math for the existing, so I don't have anything from anybody who's done any measuring as to what the existing floor area of the house. We do have the net area from the assessors, which is 1,438 square feet. So presumably,
1,438 square feet right now.
1,438 square feet. So presumably, that would exclude the garage, which is 300 square feet. Because they don't, the net area does not include, only includes conditioned spaces that are heated or cooled. So I believe the total, area, interior space is about 1,700 square feet, which is different, of course, from the building coverage area, which is
And this is a
1,400.
two-story addition, right?
it's a two-story addition.
I mean,
That's
my
correct.
quick calculation is about 400 square feet additional space in that family room. So times two, that's 800, right?
That's right.
All right.
Well, see, anyway, I got a little bit more because they
Yeah.
enlarged the connector. The connector's 6 by 20, so that's
Yeah.
120 square feet.
Okay.
So I got just over 500 square feet of floor space on the first floor in the addition, so you double that, it's 1,000 square feet,
Okay.
basically.
That's all I had.
Megan,
I don't have any questions and I don't have any
concerns?
advice.
Paul?
No, I have
Any
nothing,
concerns?
I have nothing else, no.
Mr. Thompson, any concerns?
The only thing when I'm saying historical commission is that you've got a typical old garage, Bill, that was built for a car from the 40s. It's a lot smaller. It's going to change the it's going to change the look of that which is there right now. I think you ought to you really should let the historic commission take a look at it.
Oh, yeah, no, we will.
Brandy?
I don't have any
That's
comments.
okay.
Yeah, I had just one, it's minor to a certain degree, but I think the drawings need to be clarified to show, if you look at the front elevation, we don't have a right side elevation. And so if you look at that front elevation, Bill, I can tell by looking at, there's a section on another plan. I can tell by looking at the section that the connector that's shown, as it's shown,
Yeah,
projects above the roof of the original house.
that's what, if you look at the rear elevation, it does
No,
not show.
no,
that
I'm
it-
talking about the front of the connector. So you look at that section that's shown there, Bill.
I don't
And
know.
on the front side, right, and that Sarah's showing, that projects above the roof of the old house, which is shown on the background there. So that being said, that would show up on the left side elevation or right side elevation, which you don't have, and also on the front elevation, where it is shown, you would expect to see a corner board showing the difference between those two ridge heights. or
Well, I
those-
know, but if you go back to the section, we've just looked at it, it says new ridge to match existing house ridge.
New ridge that is from the back dormer. That's the back side of the connector, made to match the dormer roof that's existing.
Yeah,
So that's the pitch that they determined that they want to pick up. They're carrying that same pitch onto the front side of the connector, which will project above the roof of the old house. So I just want the representation to show that better than it currently does. This does not show it well enough for most people to be able to visualize what that's going to look like.
okay, so what you're saying is that where the small window is,
Yeah, there'd be a corner board coming down there until to the point that it meets the roof of the main house.
okay, so you think the line where the two roofs join is actually higher than the existing roof?
So that view, when I first looked at that view, my interpretation of that was that the connector
Matches.
matched the front roof pitch and
Mine too.
thus would have been set back much, much further. than it is. It's only set back 2.5 feet from the front corner of the old building. So being that tall, it has to project above that roof. But this doesn't show it, so I can interpret that from reading the plan. I think actually what would be better would be a perspective view that would show us, because that's gonna be, that would be
okay.
somewhat to be considerable. That's all,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah. 'cause I look
It's
at-
not a big point,
'cause
but it
looking at it,
doesn't show it.
I just
very
thought it matched all the way across, so.
Yeah, it doesn't. That roof pitch does not match the roof,
Okay.
the pitch on the old house,
All right,
on the front.
okay.
Okay, I would suggest to you, Mr. Riley, that you ask for continuance to September 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Attaboy. We haven't heard those words from your lips.
Please. May I have a continuance to September 22nd?
Anybody object to that? No? Okay, Paul?
I'll move to grant the requested continuance to September 22nd. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
September 22nd.
Dave Veach seconds.
We need a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
All votes yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Okay, Sarah, on to 060, please.
Application number 22-060, Andrew James Greenwald, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 9 Windmill Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16A, Block 14, Lot H10. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of an existing deck and the construction of a covered porch and second-floor deck. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 31.1 feet from the road, 11.2 feet from the northerly abutter, and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 13. The proposed porch and deck will be non-conforming in that they will be located 31.1 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, and within the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,112 square feet, and the proposed building
Yeah, isn't
coverage
it?
is
That's right, I forgot about that.
1,323 square feet, where 2,800 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 0 square feet of buildable upland where 20,000 square feet is required, and contains 11,349 square feet of land area where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Riley?
Good afternoon. This is an application by Andrew Greenwald, who purchased this house 7 or 8 years ago. And the changes he wants to make are very modest. Right now, it has a screen porch on the east side of the house and an open deck. And what he wants to do is enclose the screen porch. I assume it'd be like a 3-season porch, because it's just windows, there's no, and then he wants to add a second-floor deck that will have a roof over the currently open deck, so that they can walk out. They're going to put French doors in on the second level, as you can see, so they can walk out onto this new deck. So so there's no change in the existing footprint of the building. There is a change in building coverage because the second floor deck is 211 feet, at least that's what I'm told. And but the coverage is still significantly below the maximum coverage. The quick run through on the criteria: adequacy of the size of the site in terms of size of the proposed use. Again, because we're not increasing the footprint, I believe that the size is adequate for the proposed project. There will not be any excavation, and all we're doing is increasing the building coverage by 211 square feet. compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. This is one of the smaller buildings in the neighborhood, although there's a couple of older ones. So I included in my analysis the building behind it, which fronts on Morris Island Road, and then the rest of the homes on Windmill. And so I think, looking at those numbers, you can tell we're very much compatible. Because presumably the net area is not going to change because, the enclosing the screen porch is still not going to make it year-round space. The extent of proposed increase in non-conforming nature, converting the screen porch to living space, even though it's not year-round space, could be considered an intensification of the non-conforming aspect where you have an undersized lot. So I think that nonconformity increase is very minor. Suitability of the site, it's a very level site. There's no excavation planned, so we don't think that there's any concern about stormwater runoff on neighboring properties. Impact of scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. So we don't think there's going to be any negative impact on the neighborhood visual character. The French doors on the second level for access to the new second level deck and a converted screen porch are very modest changes. And you'd really have to turn onto Windmill Lane, which is not a place you go unless you're invited, apparently. And so I think that you could say that these changes are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. And then compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses, it's a single-family residence and in a single-family neighborhood. That'd be our presentation.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience or Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you wish to speak and join the meeting.
Mr. Greenwald would like to speak.
Hi, this is Andrew Greenwald. I'm the homeowner. I just wanted to, say thank you for the consideration and let you all know that I was on in case there were any questions for me or anything, Bill didn't mention. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else, Sarah?
I see no one else that wishes to speak in favor of the application.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence. The first is from Nikki Smith, our conservation agent. She writes, on July 26th, an administrative review should be filed with the Conservation Department since work will occur in a flood zone. There are also some old orders of conditions that need to be closed out. Judith Giorgio, our health agent, she writes on 7/20, I've reviewed the plan to add a screen porch/deck. The proposed plan does not add sewage flow to the property, nor does it encroach on the required setbacks to the existing septic system. I have no concerns about the project. Then we have a memo. This is from Chip Walker, address 8 Windmill Lane. Writes on July 18th, we're writing to indicate our strong support for a proposed porch and deck to be reviewed by the ZBA. We think the designs are excellent and the renovations will be a great addition to the neighborhood on Windmill Lane. Then we have a note, this is from Kimberly and Peter Chipman, and their address is 10 and 21 Little Beach Road. They write on July 13th, please accept this email as our full support for the project at 9 Windmill Lane. Thank you and the volunteer members and staff of the zoning board. We appreciate your efforts. That's the total amount of correspondence. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to raise a question or speak against this application? If so, please indicate on the screen now.
I see no one that has a specific question or wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. We'll start with Randy.
I do not have any questions.
I have no questions, Dave.
I have a question for Sarah. Regarding the letter from Conscom where they're requesting that they file an application because they're building in the floodplain, will the building inspector issue a building permit before they do that? Or is there any kind of communication?
There's plenty of communication. Typically, we don't issue any building permits until it's signed off by any necessary boards, commissions, health department, conservation, building commissioner and/or building inspector is the last step of permit issuance. And they do not issue it until it's signed off. So it's an administrative approval through the conservation, so it's not a notice of intent filing. It takes less time.
Thank you.
And they haven't filed a permit yet, so as of right now, I believe we're running about 3 to 4 weeks for an issuance of a building permit. So about the time they get the recorded decision, if approved by this board, they would be able to start the work.
Thank you. No further questions.
Bill?
Yeah, when I, reading through the criteria, I mean, the main one for me is one that isn't addressed on your handout, and it's associated with a floodplain in this situation, which is, you know, this is squarely in it. And given that there's about a 20% increase in coverage, could you address that criteria, number 12, the extent to which lateral expansion impacts the impervious area of the site? Because to me, that's an increase.
I don't think that, I have to update my ZBA analysis form because I don't have that one on there, but so there's no lateral increase on the ground level. Okay, so the increase in coverage is because we have a second floor deck that rain won't go through. Stormwater runoff from that will be more or less identical to the existing deck down below. It's just, they'll have drains that'll go down to the ground. So I don't think there's any significant change or impact on the, floodplain. Surely not gonna have any effect on flood waters, which I think is the goal of that particular section of the bylaw.
And just to clarify, the height of what's referred to on these plans as, you know, where you have an access, vertical slats is 5 feet.
I beg your pardon?
The vertical slats from the ground level up to the level of the porch
Right.
is 5 feet?
Well, it's whatever the engineer says, yeah. But
It's-
nothing's changing.
It's less than 5 feet, yeah.
It's the same height as the deck is now, correct?
Yeah, the deck, the existing deck is not changing. They're simply putting another deck over it.
I understand,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's whatever the engineer says on the plan for the height of the deck. If he doesn't mention it, he doesn't mention it.
I don't have any other questions.
Megan?
I have no questions.
Paul?
What were the conservation conditions that had not been complied with?
Well, once I filled out the application, my conversation with Sarah was that we had to file with conservation. So I notified the engineer, John O'Reilly, over in Brewster, and he said he would take care of it. Because it was just an AR, administrative review, it kind of went off my radar. So I didn't realize until I got the correspondence from Nikki today that AR had not been filed. I've spoken to Mr. O'Reilly's office today, and they're going to file it promptly, so.
So that's the extent of it?
Yeah, because there's no excavation going on, we assume that it'll be approved administratively.
Okay. On your perspective view, there's a note that says chimney not shown. Confirmed chimney will meet code of 2 feet above anything within 10 feet or as per inspectional services, extend out rear if that helps. I have trouble envisioning how a chimney is going to go on that roof
Well,
there.
I don't know if it's gonna go on the roof or not. If you look on the floor plans, they're gonna put a stove in that porch they're gonna enclose.
All right, I don't have floor plans, but so where is this chimney coming out of that roof on the slant there?
Well, the,
It's right about where that arrow is. It's
yeah, see the.
you know, whatever the
the porch-
setback is from the windows.
The,
Yeah, it's not a chimney, it's a wood stove, you know, vent, metal. Yeah, that's it.
okay, so I apologize. I didn't realize. I'll give this to Buck. and he can pass it
Can
by.
you just repeat? He said it's not a chimney, it's a,
Stove.
so it doesn't even, but it's not a chimney.
No, not with bricks and mortar and stuff like that, right,
Yeah.
right.
All right,
so
so you lost me again. It's not a chimney, it's a
Vent pipe for a stove.
vent pipe for a stove. So will it have, is it going to have elevation above the roof?
Well, I believe it has to. No, I don't, again, it's a building code issue. That has nothing to do with zoning to the extent that I'm aware of it.
It'll be small, like
Yeah, we're still getting advice from the, you know, the installer, whether it's exactly 10 feet from that railing, so it needs to be 2 feet above that, or whether it needs to be 2 feet above the roof line, but our intention is to, you know, comply fully with building code and, you know, do it properly.
No, Megan, you have to pass that on, that floor plan, please. That shows you where the stove is.
Oh, I saw that. She did point that out to me. I appreciate
Okay.
that, but it still didn't quite answer to me. You know, I envisioned this chimney coming out of the roof there, and I'm wondering about the windows that are behind it, and the whole thing began to look a little weird to me. That's why I had some questions.
Thank you.
I think Megan has explained it to me. I think I've got a better handle on it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing a
Mr.
great
Thompson.
job, Bill. Thank you very much.
He's done.
Thank you, Megan.
No question. Okay. Okay, okay. All right, Paul,
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
need a vote on that? Buck?
Votes yes.
All vote yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, okay. Dave Each,
Well, it's certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think it looks actually quite nice. Looks like it belongs there, fits there. It meets all of our criteria, and I will support it.
Buck,
Buck agrees with David.
Bill,
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
Megan,
I don't have anything to add.
Paul,
Is there anything left on Windmill Lane that we can renovate? I think we've done most every building down there.
oh, there
Oh,
are-
no.
there's a
They're
couple
still
left.
out there. They're
There's
still
a
out
couple
there.
left.
Well, I think now that I've straightened them out on the chimney, yeah, we can probably go ahead and vote, yes.
I'm lost, but I think it's a great idea, and I'm going to vote yes.
Randy.
I agree with Dave Veach, single thing he said, and I would support it about voting.
Do we need any conditions, Paul?
Well, there's a fair amount of room there you can keep things off the road, can't you?
Yes, and I think this is going to be a wintertime project, too.
I'm not sure I see
Yes.
any need for any conditions on it. So I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
And Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, need a vote? Buck,
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Vitro,
And I
yes.
vote yes, a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, on to 22-061, please.
Application number 22-061. Beth Cressley Goldstein, care of Michael D. Ford Esquire, P.O. Box 485, West Harwich, Mass. 02671. Owner of property located at 368 Sea Pine Road. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13K, Block 35A, Lot H, 133. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of a deck and elevated boardwalk. Also proposed is the modification of the existing driveway as allowed by special permit under Section 4A3D of the bylaw. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and it is located partially within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 13. The deck and elevated boardwalk will be non-conforming and they'll be located partially and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The building coverage will remain 2,470 square feet. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 32,384 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in an R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
Mr. Ford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board, Attorney Mike Ford, representing the applicant. With me, I believe remotely, is Sean Riley of Coastal Engineering, and to the extent necessary, Lauren Cronin of Lombardi Design, who did the landscape design. As indicated in the ad that was read, this is a series of site improvements. We're not making any changes to the house. And when they initially filed, because this is in the area under jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, they were not alerted that they needed to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I was not involved in the project at that time. The Conservation Commission approved this unanimously. They saw a benefit in getting the stone paths eliminated and boardwalks put in, and the mitigation plan that the applicants had put forward. However, upon review after conservation, it was determined, correctly so, that there was some additional expansion of a few areas of the decks that were being redone, and the driveway that all required your review and approval under the Conservancy District provisions. And that's the reason that we're here. That said, I will tell you that, as you're probably aware, when a driveway in a Conservancy District is sought to be altered by way of enlargement, the bylaw requires that you send to the Conservation Commission for comments. That's not an issue here because the Conservation Commission has approved it and already issued an order of conditions, but also to the Planning Board. I will tell you, when Mr. Riley appeared before the Planning Board on Monday night, they did not approve of the expanded driveway. And they quoted the language in the bylaw, as I understand it, although I wasn't there, that a driveway in a Conservancy District is supposed to be the minimal necessary. And so they did not seek to or decide to recommend to you positively the driveway. That together, Mr. Chairman, with a letter that you have in your file from the Board of Health, who raises a couple of questions about where the existing septic system is vis-a-vis the expansion of the driveway, and whether or not that area of the septic system can handle H20 loading, has caused us to have a further discussion with the client about the driveway alteration. And I'm authorized on their behalf this evening to start off by saying we're going to withdraw the proposed expansion of the driveway at this time. We think it needs some additional work. We're going to see what we can do to perhaps effectuate what they're trying to do, which is to eliminate a situation now where if you drive into the house and then somebody drives behind you, everybody has to back up in order to move the front car out, and they were looking to have a little space on the side. There may be another way to do that. We're going to take a look at that further with Sean Riley and the builder, and we'll probably be back with what we hope would be a more modest modification of the driveway. So First of all, we're going to withdraw the request on the driveway, and the site plan will be amended to take that off. And Sean has showed you on this plan that's up on the screen, the expansion of the driveway was the 2 yellow areas, both of which are in the Conservancy District. And so we're going to make an effort. It was that area on the bottom there that they were seeking to maybe be able to pull a car over so other cars could back out and not have to move them all. But given the questions about the septic system and the planning board comments, we're going to go back to the drawing board and see if maybe there's another configuration that involves less of an expansion. So that part's withdrawn. The remaining portions of the application before you, Sean has labeled all in the blocks on there. One of them starting at the top, 12 o'clock and going around clockwise, is a step reconfiguration that is partially in the Conservancy District, and therefore triggers special permit relief. The next one is an expansion, a slight expansion of what is now a circular deck, and is being replaced. You can see it in purple by a rectangular deck because they're installing a swimming pool. Swimming pool is outside the Conservancy District. The Conservancy District is where the green arrows go, so that's an area that's outside. But that deck is within the 50-foot setback, thus it's in front of you. And there are a couple little points where, while the overall square footage of that deck gets smaller when you eliminate the half circle, there's an ear on the left and one on the right that actually cover an area that isn't currently covered by deck, thus again triggering technically a special permit. The next two involve existing, again, half circular deck and what is a stone path. And that's where the boardwalk's going to be. The Conservation Commission liked that, getting rid of the stone path, getting that up, and getting a small boardwalk that connected those two places. And then the final one is another area where there's a half circle, and again, the deck comes beyond the area covered by that half circle of deck now, and therefore technically also is an expansion of the deck. So those collectively, along with the driveway, were what triggered your jurisdiction. We've eliminated the driveway, but those are the things that we seek your relief on this evening. So I'll quickly review the criteria, Mr. Chairman, if I may. This is in the R40 zone. We believe the site is adequate. Most of these improvements currently exist on the site. These are reconfigurations to kind of put the boardwalk in where there is a stone path. They do want a swimming pool, and so they're changing that round deck to a rectangular deck. We believe that the site is adequate for the changes that are proposed that are under your jurisdiction. Compatibility of the size structures with neighboring properties, that's really not applicable here. We're not making any change to the house, and we don't think that the site improvements are of a size to cause a problem with respect to the neighborhood. Extent of proposed increase in non-conforming nature of the structure. I think I just walked you through that with the areas that I've had Sean mark for you because the plan is so busy, it's hard to pick those up, frankly, just looking at the site plan. And I don't think it's a substantial or significant increase in nonconformity. Suitability of the site, including but not limiting to impact on neighboring properties or on the natural environment. This is where the Conservation Commission review comes in. They've approved it. They issued an order of conditions. Their order also covered the driveway, but we're not seeking the driveway. They did like the plan, particularly getting rid of the stone path in the Conservancy District. So we don't think there's a negative there with respect to the natural environment. Impact to scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, or views or vistas. We don't believe there is any here that will be impacted. Compatibility of proposed use with neighboring uses, it will continue to be residential. I don't think traffic flow and safety is an issue that requires your review or adequacy of sewage disposal, now that we've taken the driveway out at this point, and therefore the Board of Health question. Noise and litter, we don't think that's an issue, nor is adequacy of utilities or other public services. My apologies for not putting number 11 on this. However, I think the greatest increase in coverage here is in the pool, but that's outside the Conservancy District and outside the floodplain. The floodplain is in the area where the green arrows point, and so we're not adding any there. So So that's our presentation. As I say, Sean's on, Lauren's on, if there are specific questions about anything that's going on the site, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate on the screen so we can inject you into the meeting.
I see no one who wishes to speak in favor of the application.
Okay, correspondence. As Mr. Ford has indicated, on Tuesday, July 26th, Michelle Clark wrote, "The planning board at its July 25th meeting voted to send a negative recommendation to the ZBA relative to the proposed expansion of the existing driveway as it does not meet the intent of the bylaw in relation to driveways in the Conservancy District." Nikki Smith, the conservation agent, writes on July 21st, "Conservation approved this project and issued a permit in January of 2022. The submit plans match what Conservation has on file." Then Judith Giorgio writes on 7/20, "I have reviewed the plan to renovate the deck, walkway, and driveway. The septic system leaching area is under the driveway. There are 2 tanks just off the front steps and walls and in the area of the proposed driveway modifications and the lawn mitigation area. This is an alternative septic system, and access to the tanks for testing and maintenance is required. Tank covers must be at grade. In addition, the tanks are not H2O loading and will not support vehicle traffic. A site plan showing the location of the septic components is needed to confirm access and location of these tanks." That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against or raise a question about this application? If so, now is the time you would indicate on the screen you wish to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to ask a question or wants to speak in opposition.
Okay, questions from the board. Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Phil?
No questions.
Megan?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Dave T?
Dave Thompson, no questions.
No
Randy?
questions?
Dave Veach?
No questions.
Okay, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Need a vote? Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Dave T?
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Dave Veach?
Dave Veach votes
And
yes.
I vote yes. Bill?
I think the elimination of the driveway was a good move, given the septic system primarily, and I think the improvements that they're doing is actually better, you know, for work within the floodplain. If I were voting, I would vote yes.
Megan?
I would support it without any concerns.
Paul?
It's certainly not any more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, and I would approve it.
Dave T?
Dave Thompson agrees with Paul.
Randy?
As do I.
And I agree with all previous.
Buck?
Maybe I should have asked one question, but it's for Sarah. Will the building inspector have to do a request an as-built for this?
For the decks, yes, the decks and the boardwalk.
All right. So I won't be supporting this. As I mentioned earlier tonight, a set of prints were extremely difficult to read. And I would think somebody, if you're going to do an as-built, the building inspector would appreciate what we approve. And the reason I can't support it is I don't know what we're approving. I know we're approving all these words, but I don't know about the locations. And I think the correct solution is to come back with a print with a different scale that clearly spells out what they're doing, where they're doing it, and gives Jay, Mr. Briggs, a chance to look at what they got and what we approved. I can't approve it.
No, and I would say I agree with Mr. Upson whole. So I would suggest, Mr. Ford, that you ask for a continuance?
Sure. Can I ask whether this plan, because I thought it was a busy plan too, that shows all the areas that are subject to your jurisdiction and where they are, the decks and the boardwalk and the stairs that trigger your jurisdiction. Is this sufficient? That's why I had this prepared, to try to walk you through it.
Mr. Hobson?
Mr. Ford, on the blueprint C2-1 or dot 2, the only place I saw on all the stuff supplied was in the west side of the steps coming down to the left side of the garage, proposed retaining wall. That's not mentioned anywhere else, in words or on that print. There is a black or shaded box up there, I presume is.
That's it.
But there has to be, and maybe there doesn't have to be, but I would think I'd want to know where the location of that is. And there is no definition of the length, the height, or the position.
Yeah. So here's the plan. Mr. Riley, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, because this is really a site question. So do you want to weigh in to Mr. Upson's observation?
Sure. I think it's busy because there's the existing conditions are shown on this plan, and the majority of the work is proposed within the same footprint as the existing conditions, with minor modifications and reconfigurations. So they're all in the same, essentially the same footprint, and that's why we provided the exhibit to show the difference between the two, to provide more clarity, because they are essentially in the same footprint as the existing front staircase, the rear deck, which is shown in red, the walkway that leads to the back deck, which is in red as well. So unfortunately, everything is on top of what already exists. So we could provide a plan that doesn't show any of the existing conditions and provide you a separate existing conditions plan.
Could break it up.
We could provide you.
Yeah, that would be good.
So what I'm hearing is that we submit two plans, one existing conditions and the other proposed conditions, and then they could, one's not over the other, it might be easier to read.
Right.
But I think the scale should be changed. You have a, I don't know, I think that's a B-size drawing, and maybe a C or a D would help.
Can we do a larger scale, Mr. Riley?
Yeah, I suppose we could do
We could have
30 by 42 sheet at 10 scale. It's a 20 scale, so it's a pretty good sized drawing. It's not a 40 scale, it's a 20 scale drawing. There's just a lot going on in this drawing with a lot of information, unfortunately.
Sean, this is Sarah. The issue is we got copies that are 11 by 17.
Oh, all right. Well, no wonder you can't read them.
Because I use a computer, so I had no problem reading it.
Yeah.
Because I can blow it up and spin it around. And,
Blow it up?
yeah, so I had no issue.
Mr. Chairman, we could get full-sized sheets for you.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I think that would be great. It would eliminate the confusion that I had.
But I don't think you need to change the scale, Sean, because this is Megan. I don't know if you can see me, but I had no issue on the computer because I can do that.
Okay.
It's a 24 by 36, a 2 by 3 foot sheet already at a 20 scale. So it is at a large scale. You don't get much larger than this.
No, you don't need to. I think it's
Sean,
fine.
the scale is fine. It was just the size of paper that we received.
Oh,
so may I make one further comment, Mr. Chairman? And obviously,
Yes.
we're going to get you what you need, all
Sure.
right? One further comment. Mr. Upson, all of this was approved on a plan by the Conservation Commission. And as you know, being a Conservation Commission alumnus, they require a certificate of compliance. And they go out and do an on-site, make sure that everything that was approved on the plan. Now, Conservation's jurisdiction on this plan is greater than yours. You're involved with the decks, the structures, the boardwalk, those things in the special permit. They're involved with everything that's going on out here because it's all in their jurisdiction. And they are going to have to issue a certificate of compliance. So there is going to be an ability to go out and look and sign off. So I just wanted to assure you of that. All right?
That's wonderful. We got more commissions and boards and advisories in this town than I can count. I just want to make sure that the building inspector has a clear understanding of what we approved. And
Okay.
I don't don't feel comfortable approving. It's probably wonderful. There's probably no violations, but it's nice to have a print you can read.
Understood.
And it isn't really a question of scale, it's a readability of it. And you admitted originally that page 2 was a little difficult, and you had them shade those two things with yellow.
Mr. Upson, I don't disagree with you. It's a busy plan, and it's difficult to read. I don't disagree with that. So where we go from here, does anybody have problems with anything we're proposing, or is it just to get you something that you know what you're voting on and going forward? So
I think that's what we're talking.
could we just do a continuance over to the next meeting, and I could get some full-size existing condition and propose, and you could look at that and take your vote at that point?
Yeah, okay.
Or could
So-
you take a vote subject to getting those plans?
No.
Okay.
But, nice try. So, request a continuance, please.
Yes.
To our next meeting, which is
11th.
August 11th.
August 11th.
I would like to request a continuance until August 11th, Mr. Chairman.
Okay?
I'll move to grant the continuance to August 11th.
Dave Veach seconds.
And I would say that it is understood that the driveway has been eliminated. I'm not
Yes,
gonna
it's
call
been
for a
withdrawn.
specific- Right, I'm not going to call for a specific vote on that. It's been withdrawn in advance.
I think the
Okay.
way to answer that on these revised plans, we'll take it off.
Bingo. Okay, Buck, you got to vote on that.
Buck votes yes.
Paul,
Vote yes.
Dave T.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes
I
yes.
vote yes. Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you.
Floyd. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other business? I should remind everybody that our next meeting starts at, Sarah, I think it's 3:30. Just a reminder. And that was because of me, so I'll tell you that up front. It's not something that's going to happen again, but,
Maybe we should move to 3 if we're going to have this.
no, I already,
I retract that.
thank you. Yeah, it's been published at 3:30, and anyway. So, we'll take a roll call. What time is it, Sarah? I can't read the clock.
It is 4:43 PM.
Okay, so we are going to adjourn at 4:43 PM with a roll call.
Buck votes yes.
Bill,
Bill votes yes.
Megan,
Megan votes yes.
Paul,
All vote yes.
Dave, Randy,
Dave Veach votes yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you all very much.